Millionaire sees his black ex begging with four girls. They all look just like him. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from today. Ethan Whitmore was a very important man. He was the boss of a big company that made a lot of money. People said he was very smart and strong because he made big deals and gave great speeches. Every day, Ethan's life was full of work, meetings, and important things. But one day, something happened that changed everything. Ethan was walking down a quiet street. He saw a woman sitting on the curb. It was his ex-wife, Serena. Around her were four little girls. The girls had eyes that looked just like Ethan's eyes. It had been 6 years since Ethan and Serena got divorced. 6 years is a long time, and Ethan thought he had forgotten about Serena. But seeing those girls made him stop and think. Who were these children? And why was he only now finding out that maybe they were his daughters? At 38 years old, Ethan had everything people said a man should have. He was the boss of Whitmore Global. This company owned buildings, technology, and helped move things from one place to another. Ethan's name was famous. People read about him in magazines. Students studied how he made smart choices. People who owned parts of his company liked him. People who wanted to beat him were scared of him, and his workers knew not to argue with him. Success followed Ethan everywhere like a loyal dog. But one morning, after a big meeting where everyone clapped and agreed with him, Ethan felt empty. He didn't feel happy or excited. He felt like something was missing. He walked back to his office, a big glass room at the top of a tall building. He poured himself a cup of coffee, but didn't drink it. Then he opened an email. A journalist wanted to interview him for a story called "The Man Who Has It All." Ethan thought that sounded funny. Did he really have everything? He hadn't talked with anyone except for work people in a long time. No family dinners, no friendly phone calls, only work about money and business. Ethan closed the email and looked out the window. Suddenly, he wanted to leave his office. He didn't want to go to another meeting or a fancy club. He wanted to go somewhere real where things weren't planned or perfect. He put on his coat and walked out without knowing where he was going. He walked into a neighborhood he hadn't visited since he was young. It was a place where he once dreamed simple dreams before he became a businessman. The streets were busy with people shopping, talking, and having coffee. It felt very different from his fancy office. Ethan walked around until he found a small market between old buildings. It wasn't fancy at all. A man was juggling oranges and children clapped happily. Ethan watched and felt a little lighter inside. Then he heard a laugh. He turned his head and saw Serena. She looked thinner than before. Her curly hair was tied back in a tired bun. She was sitting at a small table, selling handmade bracelets and drawings. 4 little girls played around her. The girls looked almost the same. They all had soft, dark curls and sharp, curious eyes. Eyes just like Ethan's. Ethan didn't move. He just stood there, frozen, staring. One of the girls looked up and saw him. She didn't smile or wave. She just stared at him with a serious look. That look broke Ethan's heart. The girl tugged on Serena's sleeve. Serena looked at Ethan and froze. Time didn't slow down. It felt like everything broke into pieces. Ethan stepped closer, but Serena didn't move. She put her hand on the table to steady herself. The girls stayed close to her, except for the one who first saw Ethan. That girl stood tall and looked at him carefully. She looked so much like him. It was like seeing a photo of himself from when he was a boy. Ethan's throat tightened. The girls looked like they were 5 or 6 years old. That meant something important. Serena had left 6 years ago without telling him anything. It was a hard time for Ethan. There were fights, and his sister told him Serena was bad and tricky. Ethan believed his sister and thought it was better to end things quietly. Serena signed the papers for their divorce and disappeared. Or maybe someone made her disappear. Ethan tried to say something, but no words came out. Then Serena spoke softly, "Not here. Not now." She didn't shout or cry, but her words hit Ethan hard. The girls held onto her legs as she packed up her things. She moved slowly but carefully, maybe to give herself or Ethan time. Ethan stood still, feeling a heavy sadness. How could he not know about these four daughters? How could Serena live like this, selling crafts on the street while he sat in a tall office building? He wanted to ask everything. Were the girls his? Had Serena tried to tell him? Did someone stop her? But more than anything, he wanted to be angry at himself for believing the wrong people. Serena finished packing and looked at him. She didn't smile or look mad, just tired. The kind of tired that comes from carrying a heavy burden for a long time. She put a hand on the shoulder of the girl who first saw Ethan. The girl looked back at Ethan one last time, eyes big and curious, then walked away with her sisters. Then they were gone, like a dream. Ethan was left alone, richer than most men, but now knowing how little he really had. Without thinking, Ethan followed Serena. His feet moved by themselves. He didn't want to scare her or the children. He didn't know what to say. They walked down 3 streets, crossed a small plaza, and went into a quiet alley with old buildings. Serena moved like someone who was used to not being noticed. That hurt Ethan more than he thought. At last, she stopped in front of an old building. A metal sign said Community Shelter for Women and Children. Ethan's feet slowed. He stared at the sign like it was a strange word. Serena saw him and wasn't surprised. She told the girls to wait inside and stepped outside, closing the door behind her. For a long moment, neither of them said a word. There was too much between them. Years of silence, pain, and now 4 children who might be Ethan's. Serena spoke first. "You followed me." "Just stating a fact," Ethan said. "I had to," he replied. "I didn't know." Serena's lips almost smiled, but not really. "You didn't want to know, or maybe someone made sure you didn't." Ethan flinched, and Serena saw it. "Your sister handled everything," she said. "The lawyers, the messages, my calls. You told her to deal with the divorce, and she did." Ethan opened his mouth to say something, but stopped. He had given his sister power over everything without asking questions. "I was pregnant when I left, Ethan," Serena said, her voice sharp but steady. 6 weeks. I didn't know at first. I tried to reach you. I left messages and emails, but then everything went silent. Your number changed. My messages bounced back. My lawyer stopped answering me. I thought maybe you paid them off or didn't care." Her voice did not shake, but Ethan could see the years of pain and strength behind her words. "I never got any of that," Ethan said. "No call, no message." "Margaret told me you took the settlement and didn't want anything more," Serena said, her eyes narrow. "She said it was all over, that there was no baby." The word baby hung in the air like a heavy bomb. Serena crossed her arms. "There are 4, she said. Ethan took a step back. The math was hard to believe, and they were his daughters. Serena laughed, but there was no happiness in it. "You think I made all 4 of them alone?" Her sarcasm was sharp, but under it was deep pain. "You know they are yours. Look at them." Ethan had been looking at them since the market. He ran a hand over his face, trying to understand everything. "Why didn't you tell anyone? Why didn't you ask me for help?" he asked softly. Serena stopped him with a look. "Because no one would believe me," she said. "You were rich and powerful. I was the one who left. People thought I was crazy. Your sister said she would bury me in court. I was pregnant with 4 babies, alone, with no job, and scared." Ethan felt sick. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a plan to keep him away, and he had let it happen by trusting the wrong person. "Where have you been?" Ethan asked gently. "What happened after?" Serena looked at the door of the shelter. "I moved away. I tried to find a job. It was not easy with 4 babies and no one to help me. I did what I had to do. Some days the church helped us. Other days, no one did. We have been here for 1 whole year." She looked at Ethan, not with hate, but with something harder, like she didn't care anymore. "You built a big business," she said. "I just built a way to survive. 1 bracelet, 1 job at a time. They don't know who you are." I told them their dad could not be part of our life, not because I wanted to lie, but because I thought you chose not to be here." Her words hurt Ethan. He had thought he was a good man who just didn't know. But he hadn't missed just birthdays. He had missed everything. Their first steps, their first words, nights when they were sick, and drawings they made with crayons. The love that grows from giving time, not just from being family. Ethan wanted to shout at Margaret. He wanted to go back in time. But all he could do was stand there, quiet and broken, in front of the woman he used to love, and the life he didn't know he had left behind. Serena took a deep breath. "If you are here to make things right, I won't stop you. But don't confuse the girls. Don't come and go like before. They don't need another broken promise." Ethan nodded slowly. He knew he didn't deserve her trust yet. But he wanted a chance to earn it. "I want to know them," he said. "I want to fix this." Serena looked at him for a little longer, then turned and walked back inside the shelter. The door closed softly behind her, leaving Ethan alone in the dark alley. He stared at the door where she had been standing. Then he let the heavy feeling sink in. He had 4 daughters, 4 little girls who had lived their whole lives without him. Ethan did not sleep that night. After he came back from the shelter, he sat in his big, empty apartment. It was quiet and perfect, but cold. He looked into the empty space and thought about what he had lost. Serena's tired face stayed in his mind. So did the girl's eyes, his eyes in 4 different little faces. Serena had not yelled or asked for money. She only told the truth. And the truth broke all of Ethan's ideas that things ended okay between them. He opened his laptop and started looking at old papers from the year they got divorced. Emails, papers from court, notes on his calendar. He had trusted Margaret to take care of everything. Back then, he was too angry, too hurt, too busy to talk to Serena. He thought he was protecting himself from pain. But now, with clear eyes, he wondered who he had really been protecting. The first sign came from an old email folder he hadn't opened in years. It said legal. Inside were hundreds of messages between Margaret and their lawyers. Some talked about court dates and money, but others were mean. One email said, "We must make sure they are completely separated. No loose ends. No chances to use feelings as power." Another said, "She's trying to call him. I blocked her number. If she calls again, we'll stop her legally." Ethan blinked. He never asked for this. He told Margaret to keep things simple, not to erase a person from his life. But the worst was when he found emails that went to spam, and he never saw them. They were from Serena, dozens of emails asking, confused, sad, and then giving up. "I just need to talk to you," she wrote. "I don't want money. I just think you should know. Please don't do this. Not like this." None of these emails reached him. His heart beat fast as he opened more files. One had a handwritten letter from Serena. It was 2 months after she left. The ink was light, but the words were clear. She had found out she was going to have a risky pregnancy. She was scared and alone. She just wanted to talk. Another file had notes from Margaret telling the lawyer to make Serena keep quiet. On the side, it said, "If she doesn't agree, delay everything until she can't stop it." Ethan stood up fast. His chair made a loud sound. He didn't know whether to hit the wall or himself. This was not a mistake. This was a plan. Margaret had made this happen, and Ethan, too trusting, too busy with work, had let her. Curious and angry, Ethan drove to the storage place where their family kept old papers. He hadn't been there in years. The manager was surprised, but let him in. Inside, it smelled like dust and old paper. Ethan pulled boxes from shelves looking at labels: Taxes 2016, Whitmore Foundation, divorce papers. One box had no label. When he opened it, it felt like time stopped. There were pictures of Serena very pregnant, taken from far away. In one, she sat on a park bench holding her belly, not knowing someone was watching her. There were receipts from doctor visits just before their divorce was finished. He found a sealed letter from Serena with a sonogram inside. On it, she wrote, "They're real." They're yours." Ethan sat on the floor and put his head on his knees. The room didn't spin. It felt like it fell apart. He had told himself a story for years, that the relationship didn't work, that they were too different, that Serena left. But now he saw the truth. She hadn't left. She was pushed away by someone who said they were protecting him. Margaret didn't think Serena deserved to be part of their lives. She thought Serena only wanted money or to ruin their reputation. So Margaret did what powerful people do. She erased Serena from Ethan's life. Ethan was too numb and too focused on work to notice. He never asked why Serena disappeared. He never asked why her last message was so quick. He just thought she was done. That was the worst part. He never even asked. Hours passed before Ethan moved again. He gathered all the papers, photos, and letters that showed what really happened. He took them home and spread them out on the kitchen table like puzzle pieces of a past he never knew. His mind went back to old moments that now meant more. Margaret telling him it was better this way, making him sign papers without reading them, telling him to focus on work. He had focused on work, building things, buying things, winning things, but he had won everything except the truth. It wasn't just that he was wrong. He had chosen not to see. Now, looking at the faces of his daughters in the pictures, he knew what he missed was not a secret or a scandal. It was a life, a family, that he might never get back. For the first time, Ethan understood he wasn't just away. He had been used like a weapon. His silence, his distance, not asking questions, all of it helped take Serena and the girls away. He hadn't just lost them. He had let them be taken. And now, looking at the proof of 4 lives that grew without him, he felt more than guilty. He felt responsible, not just for a mistake, but for a betrayal he didn't even know he made. He would spend every moment from now on trying to fix it. Ethan stood outside the shelter again. This time he was not confused or scared. He was here on purpose. After learning how much Margaret had tricked him, he knew he couldn't just walk into Serena's life and demand answers or try to take the girls. That would only push them away. He needed to earn a place, not as their dad yet, but as someone they could trust, someone who was there. So he used a friend at the shelter's funding group and sent a volunteer application with a fake name, Ethan Whitman. It wasn't a total lie. Whitman was his grandfather's old last name. It was enough to feel honest without telling the whole truth. The interview was short. Ruth, the shelter boss, was a smart woman in her 60s. She didn't like people pretending to be good just to look good. She asked many questions and watched Ethan closely. Ethan told her a true part of his story. He grew up rich, but lost sight of what really mattered. He wanted to help and be part of something real. Ruth didn't seem sure, but she gave him a chance. The first days were hard. He fixed broken doors and painted walls. He moved heavy furniture. He kept his head down and didn't talk much. He didn't ask about Serena or the girls. He just waited. At the end of the first week, he saw them. 4 girls, all the same but all different, running and laughing in the common room. They shrieked and claimed spots on the beanbags by the books. He stopped fixing a door and just watched. Each girl looked a little like him, but each had her own way. One was loud and brave, bossy and confident. Another was quiet and hummed to herself, watching everything. A third held a notebook and drew quietly. The last one stayed near the helpers, folding napkins and asking questions. Ethan didn't know their names yet, but he already saw pieces of himself and Serena in each of them. One day, while fixing a loose tile, the quiet girl stood next to him and asked, "Why do you always work here?" Ethan looked up, surprised, then smiled. "Because things break, and I know how to fix them." She nodded. "I'm good at fixing things too. I help my mom." Ethan smiled again. "I can tell." She said her name was Zara. In the days after, the other girls came too. Ivy, the artist, Ember, the chatterbox, Arya, the leader who always reminded everyone she was the oldest, even if only by a little bit. They didn't ask why Ethan was there. Kids don't think too much about things like that. They just like when someone is steady and calm. Ethan became Mr. Ethan, the man who fixed things. The man who stayed quiet and calm and didn't laugh when someone cried. Serena didn't talk to him much, but she saw him. The first time they looked at each other across the garden during after school, there was no smile, but no anger either. She let it be. And the girls started to come to him more. Ember liked to ask him questions about animals. Arya dared him to race in the yard. Ivy showed him her drawings. They were full of big feelings, more than he expected for a little girl. Zara sometimes sat with him quietly, copying how he breathed or crossed his legs. They were not just four girls, they were four different people. Ethan saw how Ivy liked red crayons and did not like loud noises. He noticed Zara touched things twice before walking away. He saw how Ember talked very fast when she was excited, and how Arya always made sure everyone had a snack before she took hers. Ethan fell in love with them. Not because he had to, but because they amazed him. Every night, Ethan came home very tired. He was more tired than he had ever been before. Before, he worked for many hours, sometimes 16 hours a day. He made big deals with people in faraway places. But this was a new kind of tired. It was a tired that came from holding in feelings, from listening a lot but not talking much, and from pretending not to care too much. Ethan could not tell the girls the truth yet. He could not risk it. The girls were happy and safe now, and he did not want to make them scared or sad. He wanted them to get to know him first, not as the man who left, but as the man who stayed. So, every day, Ethan kept coming back. He fixed things like drywall, cleaned paintbrushes, tied shoelaces, and learned how to talk with four little girls. The girls did not know that the man they called Mr. Ethan was the same man who was their real dad. By the end of his third week, something changed. Zara gave Ethan a heart made from popsicle sticks and glue. "For you," she said shyly, "because you're nice." Ethan smiled and took the heart, feeling happy. Ember gave him a rock painted like a frog. Arya challenged him to a memory game. Ivy showed him a drawing she made of all five of them, Ethan and the girls. That night, Ethan sat in his car outside the shelter. He held the popsicle heart like it was very important. The girls did not see him as their dad yet, but something real had started. For the first time in many years, Ethan felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. It all began with small things, simple acts that someone might not notice. But Ethan noticed them. Ember started calling Mr. Ethan from across the courtyard. Her face lit up like she had seen a star. Zara gave him folded papers with drawings of animals, shapes, and hearts. Ivy, who was usually very quiet, sat next to Ethan while he worked, quietly drawing pictures of what he fixed. Arya, the boldest one, acted like she was in charge of Ethan, telling him when to stop working and when to play with them. The girls let Ethan in slowly, not because they knew he was their dad, but because he came back every day and never left them. Ethan did not try to rush anything. He stayed the helper, the fixer, the grown-up who did not ask many questions or talk too much. But every moment with the girls made Ethan care more. He learned their habits, how Ivy looked around before she sat down, how Zara bit her lip when she was nervous, how Arya acted older when adults were near, and how Ember used big words she didn't understand to sound smart. These were not just habits. They were ways the girls stayed safe. Ethan saw this now because he had missed it before. He had missed everything before. Now he could not stop seeing it. One Tuesday afternoon, the girls were finishing a finger painting activity. Ivy's hands were covered in orange and green paint. She looked up at Ethan and tilted her head. "Why do you look like us?" she asked. The question hit Ethan softly but very hard. The other girls stopped what they were doing. Arya raised her eyebrow. Ember stopped talking. Zara stopped painting. Ethan looked at Ivy and asked gently, "What do you mean?" Ivy shrugged. "Your eyes, they look like ours. Your eyebrows and your face." She was not angry, just curious. Children notice things and connect dots, even if adults don't see it. Ethan smiled as best as he could. I guess we're all just very good looking, huh? The girls laughed, and the question went away for now. But Serena saw it. She was standing at the door of the playroom with her arms crossed. Her face did not show any feelings. When she and Ethan's eyes met, there was no way to hide. She had heard Ivy's question, and she saw how Ethan had tried not to answer it. That night, Serena found Ethan alone in the courtyard. He was cleaning paintbrushes in a plastic bin. She spoke quietly. They're starting to notice, she said. You can't pretend to be a stranger forever. Ethan nodded. I know, he said. I'm not trying to lie to them. I just didn't want to come into their lives too fast and confuse them. I want them to trust me first. Serena's jaw tightened. Then what? You tell them the truth and then leave again? Ethan stood up and looked at her. No, I'm not going anywhere. The words hung in the air. Serena's arms fell down. I don't know if I can believe that, Ethan. You weren't there before. You missed everything. I had to be both mom and dad. I had to explain to the girls why they didn't have a dad without making you the bad guy. I protected your image because I thought maybe one day they'd meet you, and now you're here. But hiding. I'm scared. I'm scared you'll break. You'll break hearts. Her voice cracked, and she turned away, embarrassed for showing too much. Ethan did not move closer. He knew better than to crowd her. I deserve your anger, he said softly, but not your doubt. I won't leave. I can't. She did not answer. Her silence said more than words, but she did not walk away. That night, Ethan went home carrying all the weight she had carried alone for 6 years. He lay awake thinking about Ivy's question. She did not know what she was asking yet, but soon she would. All the girls would. And when that time came, Ethan wanted to be ready. Not with a big speech, but with proof, by being there every day, showing them he was not leaving. In the next few days, things changed again. The girls held on to Ethan more. Ember held his hand during story time. Arya asked for his help with reading homework. Zara sat next to him at lunch. Ivy, still quiet, gave him small smiles. They did not ask again about how Ethan looked like them, but they didn't have to. A quiet, strong bond was growing between them. Ethan felt it in every look, every laugh, every touch. Serena saw it too. She started watching Ethan with less worry and more curiosity, maybe even something softer. She did not trust him fully yet, but the door was not closed anymore. On Friday afternoon, as the girls were leaving the art room, Arya ran back to Ethan. She wrapped her arms around his waist quickly and tightly. Bye, Mr. Ethan. See you Monday, she said. Ethan knelt to hug her back. When Arya pulled away, he saw Serena watching from across the room. This time, she did not look away. Ethan stood slowly, looked at her and said quietly, I'm not going anywhere. For the first time, she didn't flinch. Ethan should have known what was coming next. Margaret had always been very smart and careful, always 2 steps ahead. But Ethan's connection with the girls could not be hidden anymore. His lawyer called him, sounding scared. Someone had filed a custody case against him, a legal paper asking to give him full custody of Arya, Ivy, Zara, and Ember. But Ethan never said yes. He never signed anything. The papers said Serena was not good to take care of the girls. They said she didn't have a job and that her home was not safe. The signature looked almost exactly like Ethan's. Ethan felt sick reading the papers. The betrayal was clear. Only one person had Ethan's private information and could sign his name, Margaret. Ethan called Serena right away. She didn't answer the first time. When she did, her voice was cold. So this is how you want to play? She said. You act like you want to trust me, but then you surprise me with court papers. Ethan was frozen. I didn't file the papers, he said quickly. It wasn't me. It was Margaret. She's trying to save you from the poor black woman and her 4 kids. Serena snapped. Tell me I'm wrong, Ethan. He told her everything. The fake court papers, how Margaret got access, and all the signs he missed. Serena was silent for a long time. Then she said quietly, Prove it. In the next days, things got worse. The shelter got complaints from someone who did not say their name. They said bad things about the shelter, about the money and the safety of the building. The workers at the shelter were worried. Families started packing up their things, scared they might lose their home. Ruth, the shelter's director, came to Ethan. "I don't care who you are or who your sister is," she said. "If this mess is because of you, fix it." Ethan promised he would. Then he called Serena. This time, she met him not because she trusted him, but because they needed to work together. They sat in a quiet room at the shelter. Two people who once loved each other were now working to protect four little girls. "She's using the system to hurt us," Ethan said. "She wants to destroy this place so you have no home and so she can take the girls." Serena didn't blink. "Then we stop her, together." They put together all the proof. The fake papers, the complaints, emails Margaret sent without asking, and other papers. Serena found a lawyer who helped the shelter. Ethan hired a private investigator to find out where the complaints came from. It was from Margaret's company. Within a week, they had proof. For the first time, Ethan and Serena worked like a team, not like strangers or exes or enemies, but like something stronger. Ethan watched Serena in meetings. She fought hard for the girls. She could see through the lies and traps. She was not just surviving anymore. She was fighting. And Ethan fought beside her. At the next court hearing, it was very serious. Serena came with her lawyer and showed all the fake papers. Ethan came after, telling the judge he did not want custody and that Serena was the only one who should care for the girls. The judge looked at the papers and said they needed to check everything carefully. The bad custody case was thrown out, but the news had already spread. People at Ethan's company were talking about him. Margaret was ready to say Ethan was not acting right, but none of that mattered to Ethan, not compared to what he could lose. Back at the shelter, things got better. Serena asked Ethan to help the girls with a school project. They sat on the floor, cutting out pieces of cardboard to make a jungle diorama. Zara kept asking about gorillas. Ivy helped by fixing facts. Arya took charge of the presentation. Ember tried to glue her fingers together by mistake. Serena sat on the bed and watched quietly. Their eyes met. She didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. It was the closest thing to peace they had had in a long time. That night, when Ethan walked back to his car, he finally understood something very important. They were not building a story about being perfect or about love. They were building a family. It was not easy. It was a little broken and a little scary, but it was real. Margaret never gave up. She was strong like that. But now she was getting weaker. The judge said someone would check what Margaret had done. Ruth, who didn't believe Ethan before, now saw him as more than just a rich man trying to help. She saw how Ethan looked at the girls and how the girls looked back at him. The truth was breaking the lies Margaret told. Ethan and Serena kept coming to every meeting. They went to court, they talked with teachers, and people saw them together. The girls saw them together too. Slowly, people stopped thinking of them as just two people with a messy past. They saw them as two parents who wanted to take care of their girls. It was not love yet. Maybe it never would be, but it was something more important than just a duty. It was a promise to be there for the girls, to be whole and strong. For the first time since everything started, Ethan stood beside Serena, not to fix the past, but to protect the now. After one more meeting at the shelter, Ethan and Serena walked side by side. They were tired but sure. They did not say a word because they did not have to. They were finally acting like a family. They were on the same side now. The courtroom was cold, not because of the air, but because of what was going to happen. Ethan stood next to Serena at the table for parents. Their lawyers were with them. Across from them sat Margaret. She looked calm and strong like a boss. She believed she was going to win. Her lawyer was ready to say Ethan was crazy and only wanted her money. Ethan knew Margaret would try everything. She always did. But this time, he was ready. Serena was ready too. They had the truth on their side. Serena had not talked to Margaret since before the divorce. Seeing Margaret smiling like she was winning made Serena feel all the hard things she had been through. But Serena did not show it. She sat up straight with her head held high. She was a mother, not there to cry, but there to protect her girls. Judge Ramirez started the court meeting. She was a serious woman who cared about details. She said the court would check if the custody papers Ethan had were real. She also said they would look at if Serena was a good parent. "Mr. Whitmore," she said, "did you file these papers?" Ethan spoke clearly. "No, Your Honor. I did not. Someone else did. My sister used my name and my computer without telling me." People in the court whispered. Margaret's lawyer said they needed proof. Ethan's lawyer showed them proof. It was on the computer. They had reports, emails, and dates that showed Margaret used Ethan's accounts without permission. Then Ruth, the shelter's director, came to speak. Everyone was quiet. She said, "I have seen Ethan become close with those girls. He was kind and patient. I have seen Serena take care of 4 daughters with so much love and hard work. What Margaret is doing is not because she cares. She just wants to be in control." When it was Serena's turn to talk, she did not say mean things. She told the truth about the blocked messages and the letters she never got. She told about all the years she had to do everything by herself. "I don't want people to feel sorry for me," she said. "I just want people to believe me." Then Ethan told his story. He said he trusted Margaret too much and did not see her lies. He said he was sorry for not being there before. "I don't deserve forgiveness," he said, "but I want to try. I want to be part of my girls' lives. I will not let anyone hurt them again." The judge took a break for an hour to think. When she came back, she was serious and strong. She said the papers saying Ethan wanted custody were fake. She said Margaret's actions hurt both Ethan and Serena. Margaret did not say a word. She just looked straight ahead. Judge Ramirez said, "Ethan and Serena are the real parents of these children. The court wants you both to make a plan to take care of the girls together. You don't have to live together or be friends, but you must work as a team for the girls' sake." The court meeting was over. Outside, Serena breathed out like she had been holding her breath for a long time. Ethan said nothing. He just stood next to her. He did not expect a thank you or a win. Then Serena said, "Thank you for telling the truth, even when it made you look bad." Ethan nodded. "It was the only thing I hadn't done yet." They left the courthouse. The air between them felt warmer and less tense. They were careful, but they were not enemies anymore. That night, Ethan called his foundation boss. He said, "Give money to the shelter, but don't tell anyone it's from me. Use the Ellis Wright family grant. Make sure Sunshine Haven has enough to pay all their debts." The next morning, Ruth called Serena. She said, "You need to see this." She showed Serena a paper. The shelter's mortgage was paid. The bills were all paid. The money for supplies was tripled. No name was on the paper, only the grant symbol. Serena looked at the paper for a long time. She did not have to ask. She knew Ethan had done this not to get attention or to impress the court. He did it because he could and because it was the right thing. For the first time since Ethan came back, Serena believed he might be telling the truth. The apartment was small, but it was theirs. For the first time in years, Serena had a key to a real home. It was a 2-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor of a new building near downtown. The rent was fair, not because of luck, but because of Ethan's foundation. The lease was in Serena's name. It was hers alone. No tricks, no hidden debts. Ethan made sure of that. It took days to settle everything. Serena pushed for control, and Ethan stepped back without being proud. "I'm not buying you a favor," Ethan said. "I'm helping you be free." Unpacking took 2 days. The girls were excited. Ember took the bed by the window and called it her reading tower. Zara put the kitchen drawers in order like a scientist with data. Arya arranged the living room furniture carefully, saying where everyone would sit. Ivy quietly put her drawings on the walls before any pictures were hung. Serena could still feel the worry in the air. The girls held on to old routines, but there was also happiness. For the first time, Serena didn't have to share food, sleep in strange places, or explain why they had to move again. She could finally breathe. Ethan didn't come right away. He waited until the second week, just like they agreed with the helper who talked to them both. Tuesdays and Fridays were his days. No surprises, no dropping by without telling. When he knocked that first Tuesday, he looked nervous. He was carrying craft supplies and a pizza box. The girls screamed when they saw him. They ran past Serena to hug him like he was a star. "Mr. Ethan, you came," Arya shouted. "I told you he wouldn't forget," Zara said, smiling. Serena watched them from the door. Her arms were crossed and her face did not show what she felt. But she let the girls run to him. That first evening was better than Serena thought. They painted, read books, and ate pizza. At one point, Ivy climbed into Ethan's lap with a coloring book. She asked him about his favorite colors. He answered fast. "Blue," he said, "and orange, like your hair clip." Ivy blushed and went back to coloring. Ember gave Ethan a drawing she made earlier. It was simple stick figures with big eyes and big smiles. In the corner, above one figure, she wrote "Dad" in letters that were not perfect. It was not a label, not a name. It was a question. Ethan stopped for a second, then carefully took the drawing. "Can I keep this?" he asked. Ember nodded shyly and ran down the hall. Serena saw it too. The quiet change. The slow move from stranger to something more. The girls still called him Mr. Ethan. Serena didn't push them to change, and he didn't either. But the lines were getting blurry. Now Ivy wanted to show him her art. Zara asked him for help with her homework. Arya checked his calendar every week to make sure he was coming. Ember, who was loud and wild, started hugging him without warning. Serena waited for him to pull away or leave, but he didn't. Every Tuesday and Friday, he showed up just like he said he would. No excuses, no distractions. The past was still there. Serena still had nights when she woke up remembering all the times she cried alone in hospitals or read parenting books by flashlight because the shelter lights were off. She still counted grocery receipts to be sure they had enough food. The pain was not gone. It was just easier to handle. Ethan never asked her to forget or pretend the last 6 years didn't happen. That mattered more than anything. He said he respected her rules and her time. Because of that, she started letting him in little by little. On his third Friday, he stayed longer. The girls wanted a movie night. By the end, the girls were asleep on the floor with blankets and popcorn. Serena watched Ethan tuck Ivy in with a blanket and gently lift Zara onto the couch. He moved slowly, as if one wrong move could wake them or break the new, fragile world they were making. When he stood up, she gave him his coat. "Thanks for coming," she said. He looked at her a long time. "Thank you for letting me," he said. There was no love song playing, no big feelings said out loud, just two parents working together for their kids. And for now, that was enough. That night, after Ethan left, Serena found another drawing behind the couch cushions. This one had 4 girls holding hands with a tall figure beside them. Above the figure, in shaky handwriting, were the letters DAD. It was not a demand, not a claim, just a hope. This time, Serena did not hide it. She pinned it to the refrigerator. For now, he was still Mr. Ethan. But something was changing. And it was real. It had to happen. They had known it for a long time. The more Ethan stayed, the more he came to the new apartment, the more they knew it. The question was not if they would tell the girls the truth. It was when and how. One Sunday afternoon, warm and quiet, with no school and no chores and no distractions, they would. Serena packed sandwiches and fruit into a cooler. Ethan folded a blanket and put some crayons and a small coloring book under his arm. He wanted to be ready in case the kids wanted to color or needed something fun to do. The girls were already very excited about having a picnic in the park nearby. To them, it was just another fun day with Mr. Ethan, nothing different or strange. But Serena and Ethan both knew that this day would change everything. After lunch, the girls were lying on the blanket. Zara was sorting the leftover snacks, Arya was braiding Ember's hair, and Ivy was quietly drawing pictures nearby. Ethan gave Serena a small nod. She cleared her throat and said, "Girls, can you all sit down for a moment? We want to tell you something very important." Ember flopped onto her back and said, "Is it bad news?" "No," Ethan said softly, sitting across from them. "It's big news about our family." Four pairs of eyes looked at them, curious but also a little worried. "You all know Mr. Ethan has been coming around for a while now," Serena said, "and you know how much he cares about you." Ivy looked at Ethan carefully. She stopped coloring and asked, "What is it?" Ethan took a deep breath and said slowly, "What you might not know is that I'm your dad." The room went very quiet. No screaming or shouting, just stillness. It was like their young minds were trying to put all the new pieces together before they could say anything. Arya was the first to speak. Her voice was tense and a little angry. "You're our dad? Since when?" Ethan swallowed hard and said, "Since the day you were born. But I didn't know I was your dad until this year. I didn't find out when your mom was pregnant because we had already separated." Zara sat down hard. She forgot about the snacks and said, her voice breaking, "But you knew us now. Why didn't you tell us?" Ethan looked at them all and said, "Because I wanted to be sure. I wanted you to trust me before I changed everything." Ember started crying loudly. "You lied," she said, hiding her face in Serena's lap. "You said your name was Ethan." Serena held Ember close and whispered softly, "He didn't lie to hurt you. He was scared, just like I was." Arya stood up and crossed her arms. "So what now? Are we supposed to just call you Dad and pretend everything is fine?" Ethan shook his head. "No, you don't have to call me anything if you're not ready. I just want to be in your lives. That's all. I'm here now, here for good." Ivy didn't move. She looked at her drawing, then picked up a different color crayon and quietly started adding another person next to the four girls she had drawn earlier. The rest of the afternoon was full of mixed feelings. Zara curled up next to Ethan and held his hand tightly but didn't say a word. Arya didn't want to talk and only answered with shrugs or by turning away. Ember cried herself tired and then fell asleep in Serena's arms. Ivy kept drawing quietly. She didn't ask questions, but later when Ethan handed her a juice box, she didn't pull away. She looked up and asked softly, "Were you sad when you didn't know us?" That question made Ethan's heart ache. Every day he whispered, "Even if I didn't know why." Ivy nodded once and went back to her coloring. When it was time to go home, the mood felt strange but gentle. Zara still held Ethan's hand. Ivy gave him her drawing, now finished with 5 people in it. "That's you," she said. "I didn't write Dad yet, but I know it's you." Ethan smiled and kissed the top of her head. Arya walked a few steps ahead, quiet but watching. Ember stirred in Serena's arms and murmured something softly. Ethan helped pack up the blanket slowly and carefully. Serena looked at him and saw not the man who had left before, but the man who came back and stayed. The man who wanted to be part of their lives without asking for anything in return. On the walk back to the apartment, everyone was quiet. It wasn't cold or sad. They were just thinking about everything. When they reached the front steps, Ethan stopped and looked back at the 4 girls. Each one was feeling the news in her own way, taking time to understand. No promises were made. No perfect family moments happened right then, but something real had started. For the first time, even with all the mistakes and pain, they felt like a family. Imperfect, honest, and finally whole. The ballroom was not new to Ethan Whitmore. Over the years, he had been to many events in rooms just like this one. Big, shiny rooms with everything perfect down to the glasses on the tables. He had raised millions of dollars, signed important deals, and stood on stages giving speeches. But tonight was different. There was no big business news to share, no new product to show. This time, Ethan wasn't here to impress anyone. He was here for something real, something new. The Ellis Whitmore Foundation Gala was happening, and Ethan was about to give a speech. He was the founder and donor of the foundation. But most of all, he was here as a father. Serena stood near the stage, wearing a simple navy dress she had made herself. She wasn't just attending the event. Now she was part of the foundation's leadership team. She helped plan housing projects and programs for people who lived in the community. She was calm and steady. Ethan and Serena were not a couple anymore, but their relationship was strong. It was built on trust, shared goals, and 4 daughters they both loved very much. They would do anything for those girls. The girls were there too, dressed up for the night, each in their own fancy clothes, but still fidgeting and squirming at the head table. Zara was busy fixing the silverware. Ivy was holding a notebook and drawing quietly. Arya was telling a waiter to bring apple juice, not soda, and Ember was sneaking bread rolls into her purse to eat later. Ethan stepped onto the stage. The room grew quiet. He fixed the microphone and took a deep breath. Then he looked at all the people who had known him only as a businessman. I used to think success was about numbers, he began. Money, growing companies, being the best. I built something big and impressive, but I did it alone. He paused. One day, I found out about 4 lives I didn't know I was missing. 4 daughters who were never part of my plans. 4 daughters who changed everything. There were no slides behind him, no fancy pictures or charts, just Ethan telling the truth. He spoke about failure, not the kind with numbers, but the kind that comes from being silent, from being away, from pride. He talked about Serena, how she raised 4 amazing girls without help, without safety, just with strength. He didn't try to hide anything. I wasn't there, he said, not because I wanted to leave, but because I didn't fight hard enough to stay. That mistake cost me years I will never get back. The room was very quiet. Even the richest people were silent. They felt something money couldn't fix. Truth. When Ethan introduced the girls, he didn't say how old they were or what they could do. He said how Ivy could see stories in empty spaces, how Zara treated every moment like a puzzle to solve, how Ember loved with all her heart even when she was scared, and how Arya was brave enough to be angry but kind enough to protect. These girls, Ethan's voice broke a little, are my future. They are what I want to invest in. They are the only empire that matters to me now. The applause was loud and long, but Ethan barely heard it. At the table, Ember stood on her chair, cupped her hands around her mouth, and yelled, "That's our dad!" That word hit him harder than anything before. Not because it was loud, but because it was the first time she said it clearly. Not a question, just dad. The other girls joined her. Zara smiled brightly and said, "Our dad." Arya nodded like she already knew. Even quiet Ivy said softly, "Dad looks nervous." The crowd laughed, and Ethan laughed too, a real happy laugh that opened something inside him. Serena looked at him from the side of the stage. She didn't smile in a fake way. She just nodded once, and that one nod said everything. After the speech, they all stayed together. People came to talk and take pictures. The press asked questions, but Ethan ignored most of them. The girls huddled close, tired but happy, their legs swinging from their chairs. Serena talked with other foundation leaders about new projects. Ethan just watched. No phone, no plans, just watching his daughters be themselves. For a long time, Ethan tried to show he was important by controlling things. Now he knew his true value was in what he chose to care about: family, second chances, and trust. At the end of the night, as they walked to the car, Ember took Ethan's hand and asked, "Will you still be dad tomorrow too?" Ethan knelt down to her and said, "Every day, forever." There were no more secrets, no more silence, only love, only being there. The girls got into the car, talking all at once, arguing about bedtime and planning pancakes for breakfast. Ethan stood under the soft light outside and let it all sink into his heart. The empire he built had finally found its true meaning, and the title he earned tonight, Dad, was the only one that really mattered. Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Check out our other videos too. See you in the next one.